there, guys. I'm Logan with the Backwoodsman Institute. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a 4-pronged fish spear or a gig or whatever you want to use for a survival situation. So you guys are going to learn a lot. And I apologize, I've been gone for a month now. I was on a month-long field op in a different state. Haven't had any chance to make some videos. My dad's been doing a good job keeping things going. But I'm back now for a little while, and I'm hitting up some videos, hitting up some comments, and we're just going to roll with it. And it's going to be an awesome time. So stay with me. Catch you in a bit. Alright guys, what I got here, I got a 6-foot piece of just wood. Alright, pretty good size to it. You don't want it to be any thicker than your wrist, because what you're going to be using this for, you're going to be using it for a spear, but not a throwing spear. You won't be able to control it. Alright, it's going to be more as a gig, like if you're gigging bullfrogs or something like that. So that's what we're going to be using for, not as a throwing spear. You want to be able to control it. So you, like if you're in a survival situation and you got to get some fish, you can just pin them to the ground and then throw them up on the bank. Alright, or bullfrogs, or if you're in the south, you can get some flounder, whatever have you, if you ever in a situation that warrants you to make a spear. I'm going to show you guys what to do with it here in a bit. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to take an end, preferably the smaller end, so you can have more control on the backside, and you're just going to put your knife right in half. So you're going to cut it, bisect it, and take another piece of wood, take your knife, and just split it probably like 6 inches down, about like that, and it's even split past the knife. So that's roughly about 6 inches. Take the knife back out, and you're going to quarter it. So you're going to bisect it again, put it right in the middle. Now both of these, and the wood you want to use, you don't really want it to be too soft, like too green, but you don't want it to be too hard either. But any tree will do, you don't really have to worry about it. Alright, so now we have 4 different sections, as you can see right here. Next thing we're going to do is just find a stick in the woods, and you're just going to put it in each section. So just how the knife was, you're just going to work it down to the bottom of your split. Same thing with the crossways. And now you can start to see this 4-pronged spear shape up. Now that we got this all spread open, all you're going to do is sharpen. Alright, so now I got all the tips pointed off. I got them sharpened. What I would do now is I would make a fire, and I would heat these tips over the fire, because what it'll do, it'll take all the moisture out of the wood, and it'll make these tips be able to hold their point. And I would stick it in the fire, not really burn it, but in the fire, out of the fire, in the fire, out of the fire, kind of like tempering metal, but you're not like dipping it back in water. But stick it in the fire, out of the fire. You don't want it to burn, but then once all the moisture gets out of this wood, these tips, they'll hold their points a lot better, and then you can take your knife and fine-tune these points a lot more finer. But this is pretty. What I'm going to do now is, I was going to take 550 cord, but I remember I took it all to my field op with me, and it's back in the room. That's okay. I'll use a shoelace. Alright, all I'm going to do is I'm going to lash right at the bottom here. I'm just going to lash to make sure it's not going to split past there. So alright, so now I got that lash down there at the end of the splits. I'm going to take my knife, I'm going to tap this evenly, these separators, these shims, tap them evenly down, being mindful of listening for too heavy cracks or anything like that. You don't want this to split off, because you already spent all this time working on it. It doesn't take too long. I probably did it all in less than 10 minutes. The sharpening is what takes most of the time. So I'm going to work on this top one. Alright, now I have this all opened up a little more. And you can keep going if you want, however, depending on how big you want your gig to be, your spear to be. I say about 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches is pretty good. Any farther than that, you run risks of splitting, especially when you make an impact on the game or the fish or whatever. Alright, like I said, these are pretty good for not being tempered or heated up, fire treated basically. But if you didn't have a shoelace or 550 cord and you had duct tape, you can use duct tape right here. you can also lash these splints towards this lashing to make sure they're not going to come out, because be mindful whenever you do jab it in the ground or in the muck a couple times, these shims do come out, so you just got to seed them again and don't worry about it. But everyone usually has a shoelace, so if you got a shoelace and you can sacrifice it for the time being, because if it comes down to food or you know, a boot, I definitely take food. So I'm gonna go to the creek and I'm gonna show you how this will work. Alright, here it is, 4-prong fishing spear. It's a pretty mean looking spear if you ask me, but the reason we use these 4 prongs is because you have a lot bigger striking surface, and if you're trying to get something that's in the water, there's this thing called light refraction. Alright, what that means is whatever underwater to you outside of the water, the light will hit it, and when the light hits the water, it goes in at an angle. So whatever's in the water is not going to appear to be at the right spot that it looks to be to you. Alright, sounds complicated, but basically what it means is whatever you're looking at isn't exactly where it's at in the water. So that's why we have this big striking surface. So whenever I'm using it, like I said, I'll be using this as a gig, not as a throwing spear. I would look at it in the water, get it, pin it to the ground, and then throw it up on the bank. So with these four prongs on here, I have a lot better chance of hitting it, and it acts as a gig, and it'll trap whatever. If you stick it twice, stick it 3 times, it's a lot better than just with a single spear head point and getting it and then throwing it. This is going to trap it and hold it until you can throw it up on the bank. Increase your survivability rate and your food getting rate, so if that's even a phrase. But I'm going to show you what it does to this monster can down here. I found it on this creek bed, so I'm going to show you what it does to that. Imagine if this was a fish. Alright, this monster can right here, I'm letting it sink down to the bottom. Let's say that this is a fish tucked up under some shade, under a little brush, and I'm walking in the stream and I need some food. So roughly right now I'm about 5 feet away from it. I would sneak up to it, use this as a gig, get lined up to it, pin it to the ground, and whatever way I see that I have it with 1 prong, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to support it with the other prongs, just like this, and I'm going to flip it onto the bank, just like that. But you can see what this done to that monster can. Yeah, it's aluminum, but it tore it up.